101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501 401 1011. Now, for all of us who like to say, and nothing will ever happen, we got some breaking news for you. Do we have FBI Director Kash Patel? Let's roll it.
As you heard from the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney, former FBI Director James Comey has now been indicted for 2 felony counts. While many of you may read this indictment and view this matter as a simple investigation, it is the farthest thing from that. Every single investigation this FBI and our partners at the Department of Justice undertake, especially those that involve the threats to harm or hurt or even kill individuals, whether they hold public office or civilians in our country, are met with the same measure of investigative prowess and tools and personnel in partnership with the Department of Justice as anyone else. As the U.S. Attorney indicated, James Comey will be afforded every matter of due process under the United States Constitution. And as the Attorney General indicated, this has been a case that's been investigated over the past 9, 10, 11 months. These cases take time. Our investigators work methodically. They are career agents, career prosecutors who work these matters. They call the balls and strikes in the field as they see fit, pursuant to the facts of the case and the law. They took that information and made a presentment to a grand jury, a jury of peers in the district in which the alleged crime took place. And that grand jury spoke, and that grand jury returned a 2-count indictment against James Comey. James Comey allegedly threatened the life of the President of the United States. And as you all now know, shortly after posting that threat, he deleted that threat and then issued an apology. All of that information was presented to the grand jury, and Mr. Comey will have his day in court and his ability to speak to a jury of his peers. Thank you.
11 months. See, the tendency of those of us who grew up watching Columbo and the Rockford Files on TV is we want things right now. We want instant gratification. We don't want to have to wait 11 months. You've probably said it. I've said it. A lot of people I've known said it. Yeah, wake me up when somebody gets indicted. Okay. Now, in case you're trying to jog your memory, last summer, James Comey posted on his Instagram account some pebbles on a beach that were constructed to show the four numbers 8647. In other words, 8647. In other words, take out the president. And he pleaded ignorance and innocence and, oh, I didn't know there was some kind of message there. And nobody bought it. And a lot of us thought that since the initial indictment was thrown out on a technicality, that the acting U.S. Attorney for Virginia was not properly put in her office, that was done. Because I thought that because of technicality, it was going to be appealed almost immediately, and that never happened, and we criticized Pam Bondi a lot. And now out of the blue, Kash Patel's like, hey, you know what? Hang on. Hold the fort. We're going to go after this anyway. So that's a really good thing. I want to talk about, because we have only scratched the surface of Saturday night at the White House Correspondents' Center and the critical failures in securing the event. And people have been getting very upset with me about this. Had a guy block me on Twitter for having the gall to suggest that security at the White House Hilton was not top rate. You know, people in D.C. call it the Hinckley, because that's where President Reagan was shot when he was coming out of it. 45 years ago by John Hinckley. Anyway, we have some audio from a guy that was on with Jesse Waters last night. He's a former FBI agent. His name is Stuart Kaplan. And when I heard what he said, it kind of made my blood run cold. If we have former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan. Okay, it's loading. Yes. I'll have to speak
Jesse, they avoided a potential bloodbath. 2008, Taj Mahal, Mumbai. 10 terrorists stormed the Taj Mahal Hotel, slaughtered 175 people.
Y'all remember that? It was right around, I think it was Thanksgiving Day, 2008. Mumbai, India, they used to call it Bombay. 10, he said terrorists, I'll say jihadists, sponsored by the ISI, which is the Pakistan version of the CIA, took out 175 people in the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai, India. Now, a big, expensive, fancy hotel is going to have security. But you got 10 jihadists coming in, and they just overwhelmed security and started killing people left and right. Why? Because they weren't Muslims. Now, the motives of those people should concern us as a country, but they're not really germane to the security problems Saturday night at the White House Correspondents Association dinner at the Hilton in D.C. But the point that former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan was making was, if one guy can run past the Secret Service, can run past the magnetometers, run past the Secret Service, and the only reason we got him is because he tripped and fell, what could a bunch of guys have done with such lax security? Oh, by the way, Secret Service Director Sean Curran is scheduled to speak with the new Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, next week. I don't think Sean Curran's looking forward to that. Now, I don't know how much you know about, until recently, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen just got approved Secretary of DHS just a few weeks ago, but he's, it's remarkable he got into the United States Senate because he doesn't mince words. He doesn't tend to be very diplomatic, as most senators on both sides of the aisle are, just so you know. So we'll see what happens out of that. Okay, if we have former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan, cut 2, please.
The only thing I can say about Saturday night was, and I first want to recognize the men and women of the Secret Service and all law enforcement. They rose to the occasion. They neutralized the threat. With that being said, they also got very lucky. You know, when Todd Blanche talks about this shooter being one floor above, he could have had a suicide vest on with explosives. That type of explosive device could have, in fact, taken down that floor onto the ballroom. And that could have been a reality, and we would have a totally different conversation this evening.
Oh, yeah. And do you know how and why the conversation would be different, much different? Well, okay, so let's look at the presidential line of succession. After the president, you got the vice president. He was right there on the dais with the president. After the president, vice president, you got the Speaker of the House. He was there too. Any idea who's next? Young Steve knows. Young Steve, filling in for young Tommy, knows. No, Supreme Court justices are not in the presidential line of succession. No, it's the president pro tem. Now, the president pro tem is the name that they give to the guy who's been in the Senate the longest. So, no. So we would have been waking up Sunday morning to President Chuck Grassley, 92 years old, U.S. Senator from Iowa. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. He's a few years older than Biden, but unlike Biden, sharp as a whip. Unlike Mitch McConnell, who sometimes just freezes and falls down, sharp as a whip. But still, just between you and me, and I don't want this leaving these four walls, we didn't actually vote for Senator Grassley to be president. Senator Grassley never ran for president. He's been serving Iowa in the Senate for many, many years. But that's who you would have had, because it would have been unprecedented. You'd take out the president, the vice president, and the speaker. Well, gee, who's next? And it could easily have been a Democrat, except in this case, it's a Republican. At least you still have a Republican. You'd have 92-year-old Chuck Grassley, who would be like, well, now it's my job after this horrible tragedy to at least carry forth what President Trump wanted to do. But it would have been a horrible, horrible tragedy. Now, after the president pro tem, then you get into the cabinet. You got the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who's also there. So, 4 out of 5, the presidential order of succession, starting with the president, 4 out of 5 were there. Grassley, fortunately, was not there. Probably after his bedtime, before, the whole thing wrapped up. Then you got the Secretary of Treasury, who was not there, Secretary of Defense, who was there, Attorney General, who was there, and it just goes on down through the whole cabinet. There's a reason. Stick with me. There's a reason when they do the State of the Union address, there's always a designated survivor in case, God forbid, somebody launched a missile and took out the whole Congress, including President, Vice President, Speaker of the House, and all the cabinet secretaries. There's always one guy or one gal who's somewhere else who would be the designated survivor. Usually somebody way, way down the list, like the Secretary of Agriculture or Education or whatever. But now, not everybody was there, but still, it was whack, yo. We have more audio coming up from former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan, trying to get everybody's attention about how dangerous what happened Saturday night was. He was on with Jesse Waters last night, and Jesse will have a question for him. Anyway, that's coming up. So the Doc Washer Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Son of a talk back, 501-401-1011. Former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan on Jesse Waters on Fox last night, just saying, look, yeah, it's great that they were able to stop the bad guy Saturday night at the White House Correspondents Association dinner, but a lot of luck involved in that. Now, of course, as a Christian, I don't believe in luck. I believe God's grace, but still, the idea is the thing was set up to fail. Let's just be honest, y'all. It was set up to fail. All right, former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan, cut 3, please.
Fortunately, they were not professional people that were coming in and bum rushing that choke point or that security point, which was really in a place that should have been off the venue. In other words, if the Secret Service cannot control this venue, the venue is not suitable for this president. You have to change venues. This venue should not have been okayed for the Secret Service.
Yeah. Not at all. So why was it? Why was it? Well, Mr. Washburn, this is the way we always done it. And we ain't lost no president since, let's see, how long has it been? About 63 years. Well, yeah, no, you're right. They did put a few bullets in President Reagan. About 45 years ago they did, and he's joking and everything, and he lived through it and everything. Yeah, you're right. What? Well, yeah, yeah, it was right outside this same hotel. So it's, yeah, I'll admit, it does have a nickname. They call it the Hinckley instead of the Hilton, because John Hinckley, that's where he done shot President Reagan, and James Brady, press secretary, eventually died years and years later. But yeah, this way we always done it. And now we realize there's some issues. There's some issues from that Butler thing. Yeah. I don't know how they let that boy on top of that AGR building. But no, we ain't going to do that again. Well, yeah, yes, sir. The fellow who's in charge of the security there, Butler, July 13th, 2024. Yeah, a fellow named Sean Curran. He's now the director of the Secret Service. So I guess one of those lessons learned things, huh? Well, we ain't going to do that anymore. Next time we'd actually meet with the SWAT team and get the radio so it'll be on the same signal. So when people are screaming at us, there's a man with a gun on top of the roof, maybe we, pay attention or something. But was anybody fired? No. Actually, no, Director Curran, he promoted a couple of the biggest screw ups in Butler. No, gave them big promotions because, look, I mean, we got to forgive and forget. We can't hold things against people forever. And I'm sure they learned their lessons. And boy, pretty good takedown of that fellow that ran past all of them, wasn't it? See, he thought he was in the clear. And I'll tell you why. You've seen the video, right, of him running through the lobby. But the start of it, he was running through this corridor, and you had 5 law enforcement officers faking him out, looking toward the lobby instead of looking toward the door he came out of, running like a runaway train, And so he thought he was going to be like that. What's the name of that country band? Was it McGuffey Gentry? Something like that. Gone like a freight train, gone like a 57 Chevy. He thought he was, blue sky. He saw the goal line. But they just faked him out. They eventually got him. Yeah, right before he got in the ballroom. Yeah. Yeah, just give him a little taste of it. Just give him a little taste of it. I'm so close I could taste it. Wrong with a capital R. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we ain't really too worried about it. We just keep on keeping on. Serve and protect. Secret Service. Yeah. You want to apply? No? Okay. Anyway, well, yeah, we have scandals here and there. We do. And that daggum Susan Crabtree over at Real Clear Politics, I don't appreciate the tone of her voice when she's writing stuff down, reporting on us. She's about to pluck my last nerve. No, she just make life more difficult for us. I mean, look, which one of us has not fallen asleep at a chair at the United Nations with our rifle unattended? I just think, you can nitpick anything you want to. Daggum, man. Give us a break. I mean, Saturday night was a total success because nobody got killed. Well, yeah, one of our guys took a bullet, yeah. No, we didn't say that it was the guy that bum rushed in there that actually got the bullet in him. It could have been friendly fire. We could have told about that. Well, I just don't like the line of your questioning, Mr. Washburn. More coming up straight ahead. Doc Washer Show continues. Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. You can sound off and talk back at 501 401 1011. It's just remarkable to me that everybody's acting like everything was fine Saturday night. It was a scary, but, you know, the guys are supposed to do their jobs, did their jobs. Now, one of the points somebody made, and we talked about it yesterday, was you can't just go off half-cocked and say the Secret Service really botched it, because then you're letting everybody know, hey, this guy almost got through. Why don't we put together a plan in all these Discord chat rooms, you know? Anyway, we got a couple more clips from, if you're just tuning in, just getting in the car, former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan was on with Jesse Waters last night explaining that it was a near miss Saturday night and the whole setup was designed to fail. Former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan, cut 4, please.
Being able to check into the hotel, the same hotel that the president's going to be at, along with multiple cabinet secretaries, is that something that happens often that you're allowed to do without screening?
Typically, if a president is going to be at a hotel, the Secret Service takes full control of the hotel so that they have full control of who's in and out of that hotel. You cannot have the general public having free reign of using elevators and corridors and staircases and have a blending type of effect. Just keep in mind, Jesse, if multiple individuals had checked into this hotel with a plan, a well sought out plan, they could have detonated explosive devices. They wouldn't have haven't even gotten to the checkpoint area. They could have just detonated them from that one floor above, and it could have had catastrophic consequences.
That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I don't know how to explain it any better than that. But, yeah, what could have happened? And only reason it didn't happen was by the grace of God. That's it. Former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan, cut 5, please.
The bottom line is also, if the Super Bowl is designated a national special security event, which elevates the priorities to the United States Secret Service, this type of event certainly should have been designated that type of event as well, which would have created a situation I think would have disqualified the hotel, given the threat level to this sitting president. It would have disqualified the hotel from being a suitable place to hold this type of event. They should have moved this event to an area, a venue that the Secret Service has full control of every single person coming in and out of that venue. This was not the case on Saturday. Fortunately, it played well for the Secret Service, but I want to be frank and candid and honest. They got lucky on Saturday night.
And again, as a Christian, I don't believe in luck, but I certainly believe it was God's grace. It could have been a horrible moment Saturday night. And let me just go back to Butler. Let me go back to Bongino. So after the Butler rally, in which President Trump took a bullet to the ear and Corey Comparator was murdered, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson announced he was putting together a committee to study what happened and what we can learn from what happened. And a number of Republicans in the House are like, wait a minute, Speaker, we've got retired Navy SEALs. We got guys who were snipers. that should be on that committee. What in the world are you doing here? Why aren't they? And I don't know if they ever got a response, but some of these guys put together their own alternative investigation. And they called in 3 witnesses: Dan Bongino, who was a longtime Secret Service agent, NYPD before that, and Eric Prince, the guy that started Blackwater, which was a contractor over in our Middle East wars. And then they had another guy who had been some kind of commando in the military, was retired military, and now was on the SWAT team with Butler. And so these are the guys that testified. And what Bongino said, I'll never forget. They're talking about all the different mistakes that were made, all the different incompetences, you know, and it wasn't just ignoring the fact that close by there was an unguarded rooftop with a young man with a rifle. No, it wasn't just that. The Secret Service was supposed to be in a meeting with local law enforcement that morning to get their radios so they can make sure everybody's on the same channel. So if anything happened, everybody could communicate. And the Secret Service, like, yeah, basically flipped in the bird and didn't show up. And Brother Bongino said, when you have that many things that went wrong, layers of incompetence, layered incompetence equals intent. It's statistically impossible for as many things to go wrong as what did go wrong at Butler. So the story is that since Sean Curran, the Secret Service agent responsible for security that day, jumped on top of President Trump as soon as he got hit, well, that meant a lot to President Trump, and that meant a lot to Don Jr. and Eric. And so they decided this guy should be the new Secret Service director. And who got fired? Who got fired for the lapses at Butler? Nobody. 2 of the main guys were given big promotions by new Secret Service agent, new Secret Service director, Sean Curran. So, Susan Crabtree, a Real Clear Politics. She put out just a little bit ago over on X. She said, I'm re-upping this post listing a litany of Secret Service lapses and scandals since Butler under Secret Service Director Sean Curran and Deputy Director Matt Quinn's watch. Congressman James Comer, she's tagging him. He's the chair of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman Comer, you need to ask Sean Curran why he isn't jettisoning DEI in the Secret Service and why he's spending so much time going after my sources. He has an official devoted to witch hunts and going after my sources 24/7, rather than truly overhauling the agency after Butler. I agree the Secret Service needs additional resources to attract and hire the best and brightest. Secret Service agents should be the best of the best. Agents should not be leaving to become U.S. Marshals because there's such a ridiculous manpower problem and a DEI mess left over from the Biden mandates. And here is her list. She said, think about the Secret Service and its estimated 3,200 special agents as a small liberal arts college. If you had this many scandals exposed at a small liberal arts college in 2 years, it would be a black mark for the school as a whole. Applications would drop, funding would dry up. Previously, a college degree was required to be a Secret Service special agent. But with manpower problems, that's no longer required. The negative impact is already happening. Recruitment bonuses have gone from 45 to 50,000. up to 75,000 because of the extreme talent and manpower drain, exodus of fed-up senior agents out the door, as well as an effort to speed up the hiring process, and in many ways, by lowering standards and dangling money. Just in the last 2 months, we've had 2 special agents ensnared in sex scandals. The OnlyFans sex scandal and the James O'Keefe honeypot incident. And here's a list of other scandals plaguing the Secret Service over the last 2 years. Chime in if I've missed one. New Secret Service agent recruit accused of placing a camera in a cell phone charger to spy on / stalk roommate. Secret Service agent Mayo Perez, who was in charge of Butler security, secretly marries a foreign agent, suspected illegal immigrant, without informing the agency. Keeps the secret for 9 months, receives 3rd suspension in a year. No one fired over Trump's near killing of Butler, and then a month later at Trump's golf course, then in Palm Beach. 2 Secret Service supervisors who were overseeing Butler received big promotions despite their failures to identify that the sloped AGR roof of Butler had no one manning it. One of those supervisors gets a new recent promotion to become the Assistant Director of Professional Responsibility in charge of every other Secret Service agent's and officer's discipline. FBI raids the Secret Service agent's home in an investigation into an alleged massive tax fraud scheme by the agent, potentially ensnaring dozens of other agents. Newly minted Secret Service agent charged with killing brother over Christmas break. See, you probably don't want to be hiring potential murderers to be Secret Service agents. 2 female uniformed division officers in a physical catfight caught on audio and video outside former President Obama's D.C. residence in the middle of the night. I wonder if it's loud enough to wake up Barack and Michelle. Overweight male agent falls asleep while in a public posting at the United Nations, leaving M4 in a folding chair while he goes to the bathroom. Secret Service uniformed division officers miss a Glock during a screening at Trump's Virginia golf course. Secret Service agent celebrates Charlie Kirk's assassination as karma on Facebook page. Chief counsel forced to resign over road rage incident and impersonating a federal officer. Chief of Staff Tyler McQuiston allows someone at the White House, a former Citigroup colleague of his, for a meeting that the person wasn't authorized by the White House to attend. The action gets White House passes, badges revoked for numerous top Secret Service officials. Unprecedented move to limit Secret Service officials' access to the White House. Secret Service fails to protect Trump and top cabinet members from aggressive Code Pink protests at a D.C. restaurant. Secret Service allows Melania Trump to climb a stopped escalator at the United Nations. Weeks after Butler, a female Secret Service agent, was breastfeeding her baby 5 minutes before Trump was supposed to arrive and potentially use the holding spot where she was breastfeeding. Have I missed any? Oh, and people are just commenting. Yeah, how about this one? You forgot that one. I hope that when Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin meets with Secret Service Director Sean Curran in a few days, it will have something to do with relieving Director Curran of his post. That would be nice. By the way, King Charles of the UK gave a speech a few minutes ago before the Senate and House, the combined houses of Congress. Ilhan Omar was really excited, big smile, standing up, taking a photo. Sean Davis, the Federalist, says she's excited to see a Muslim head of state address Congress. Hey, before we run to it, can we just, or should we wait till after the break for the little clip of Ilhan Omar, or can we play it before we go to the break? We can play it? Yeah, you won't believe what she said.
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
Okay, now, That's problematic, if I may use that term in present company. So, who was it? David Marcus. Yeah. David Marcus said about it that this indicates someone who doesn't even have a passing interest in our country, our country's history. Yeah, here it is. Making this mistake betrays a deep ignorance of American culture. It's not a mistake that anyone with a passing knowledge of or interest in our history could possibly make, and that's a problem. But somebody else pointed out this. In World War II, the Brits and the Italians fought in Somalia. And a lot of Somalis joined up with the Brits, and a lot of other Somalis joined up with the Italians. So it's not just our culture. It's not just our history. She doesn't even know the history of her own country. She's an idiot, and she's only here for one reason, and that is she wants Islam to take over. And, that's a hill I'll die on. If you want to fuss at me for being Islamophobe, I'll take it as a badge of honor. More coming straight ahead. Doc Washer Show continues. Little Rock's Premier Talk Station, 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer, Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back 501 401 1011. You know, for those of us who say so often, nothing's going to happen. Wake me up when somebody gets indicted. Wake me up when somebody gets arrested. Wake me up when somebody goes to jail. And I've been one of those for quite some time now. This lady I follow over on X, who goes by Ms. Donna, she says the nothing is going to happen and doomer crowd are having a bad day today. Number one, multiple locations in Minnesota are being raided today in fraud investigations. Number two, a key advisor to Anthony Fauci was indicted today because of COVID cover-up. Number three, a Chinese spy was indicted today. Number four, the UAE left OPEC today. Now, that's a little different than an indictment or something, but it's like, oh, wait, that's probably good. She said, and it's only 10 a.m. Well, yeah, because, see, later on today, James Comey was indicted in relation to his 8647 seashell post. So you got that. Yeah. I mean, I'm watching from a distance the whole idea that there's this federal grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida, looking into the possible overarching conspiracy of all the things that the really bad guys did to try to take Trump out. So, yeah, well, Susan Crabtree, yeah, she did retweet Andrew Kaczynski, senior politics reporter over at CNN. This is kind of unusual. He said, we went through 4,700 of Cole Allen tweets and posts, and one of the strangest things we found was he shared a lot of posts claiming the Butler assassination attempt was staged. He also repeatedly compared Trump to Hitler and urged people to buy firearms. And he's got the screenshot from the article at CNN. Suspected shooters' social media posts show shift from video games to political rage. So the guy who wanted to kill Trump and members of the Trump administration Saturday night said, well, yeah, I'm for real, but that Butler thing, no, that was a hoax. That was staged. Dude, I mean, since nobody was killed, I can kind of laugh. Do you see the irony there? I mean, so Cole Tomas Allen, I say his middle name that way because it's spelled without an H. It's Tomas. Cole Tomas Allen. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know what his mama called him, but anyway, he's like, yeah, no, I'm the real deal. I am for real. He's like, I want to be a professional assassin, want to take out Trump and, you know, the rest of the administration, whatever, you know. I'm for real, except no substitute. And in his mind, the substitute was the guy that got on the roof of the AGR building in Butler. He's like, no. That right there, that's Bush League. That's rookie stuff right there. No. That's a hoax. I'm the real deal. So you got to wonder, well, when you think about it, you got to wonder, is he now offended that people are saying that he's part of a new hoax? That's really got to stick in his craw, if I may use that term in present company. All right. Update on the Brian Malinowski murder by the ATF. Thank you to the legislature. Details coming up at the Doc Washburn Show. So for all of us in the "and nothing will happen" crowd, and I'm not a charter member. I joined late, Anyway, I got my bona fides. CNN is now reporting that federal marshals have been ordered by DOJ to actually go arrest James Comey. It's not going to be just an indictment like last time. No. So apparently mugshots will be forthcoming. Well, I mean, you wanted to see somebody like that in a big old orange jumpsuit, right? And it took 11 months. The reason why it probably took that long is because I guess DOJ and the FBI wanted some charges that would stick, and sometimes it takes time to investigate things. So anyway, I think it'd be more appropriate, frankly, if instead of arresting him in broad daylight and announcing the charges in broad daylight, wouldn't it be more appropriate to send the ATF to break his door down at 6 o'clock in the morning and just shoot him? Isn't that how the feds deal with people sometimes? Now, I don't know which is stronger, the sarcasm or the rage. Let's see. Arkansas Democrat Gazette article dropped yesterday afternoon by Dale Ellis. Arkansas legislators signed letter to Trump seeking investigation into Malinowski shooting death. And I think Dale Ellis did a pretty good job on this. 2 years after the death of Little Rock Airport Director Brian Malinowski at the hands of ATF agents attempting to serve a search warrant, a bipartisan group of 30 state senators from Arkansas are asking President Donald Trump for help. Bipartisan. That means Republicans and Democrats in the Arkansas State Senate signed the letter. And I figured this was the best time to talk to you about it because it's a few minutes after 5 and odds are you're sitting down, because that's the kind of thing that would tend to make people go, wait, what? I thought Republicans and Democrats are always on opposite sides of whatever the issue is. Anyway, State Senator Mark Johnson, Republican Ferndale, which is one of my favorite places in Arkansas, Ferndale, I love it, announced Monday afternoon at a news conference in the Capitol Rotunda. I'm sorry, I get choked up thinking about this whole thing. Announced Monday afternoon at a news conference in the Capitol Rotunda that a coalition of 30 state senators has sent a letter to the president requesting action by the Department of Justice to look into the March 19, 2024 shooting that resulted in Malinowski's death. Senator Johnson said, I recently decided we need to do something collectively to ask President Trump and his administration, especially the Justice Department, to fully investigate the tragic death of Mr. Brian Malinowski. Johnson said that the dearth of answers 2 years after the shooting is what prompted the letter, which was signed by 27 Republicans in the state Senate and 3 Senate Democrats. So 30 of the 35 members of the Arkansas State Senate signed it. Senator Johnson said following the incident, there was a conflicting analysis in which he said the ATF publicly characterized Mr. Malinowski as a significant gun trafficker who knowingly fired on law enforcement officers. He said these statements conflict with the ATF's own search warrant affidavit, with statements made by agents to the Arkansas State Police indicated that they did not expect Mr. Malinowski to be dangerous and anticipated a routine warrant execution. How can you have a routine warrant execution when you break a man's door down at 6:01 in the morning, in the dark of night, in the cold, bleak winter, when you don't even have an arrest warrant, just a search warrant? It's ridiculous. Senator Johnson said statements made by law enforcement to a legislative committee in the wake of the shooting were misleading, saying testimony testimony before the committee suggested that Mr. Malinowski intentionally chose to fire on officers performing lawful duties, which he said was in direct conflict with the earlier statements and the factual record. Now, I know you can have contempt of Congress when somebody lies under oath to U.S. Congress. Can we do something like that with the state legislature? Because you know they lied. And they're law enforcement. They know better. You're allowed to lie to perps. You're not allowed to lie to members of the legislature. Senator Mark Johnson said the pre-dawn dynamic entry normally reserved for dangerous suspects appears irreconcilable with known facts. Questions remain about whether the timing and aggressiveness of the operation was influenced in some way by the impending rollout of ATF's final rule redefining the definition of engaged in the business of selling firearms, something which as of yet has never been defined. Senator Johnson said a letter to President Trump is an effort to get to the bottom of the tragedy by making a formal request to have the Department of Justice look into the matter. According to the letter, the conflicting narratives, quote, have significantly undermined public confidence and demand independent review, unquote. The letter raised a number of concerns of lawmakers, including the choice of a dynamic entry, the lack of credible risk to agents, failure of agents to adequately identify themselves, the lack of body-worn cameras. See, LRPD and ATF are both supposed to wear body cams. And the availability of alternative enforcement actions, such as a warning letter or a demand to cease and desist. Or, hey, I got an idea. How about they could have just dropped by his office at the airport, which is a gun-free zone? I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, because I know I've said it before. Yeah, just drop by his office. Maybe like 11:30, 11:45 in the morning. Hey, Mr. Malinowski, how you doing there? Yeah, my name's Sam Smith. This is my partner, John Jones, and we're with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and we got some concerns. We got a search warrant for your home, and we thought you might be getting ready for your lunch break. If you could want to go out there with us, or just tell your wife that we'll be by and serve the search warrant. Well, sure. I mean, you call your attorney if you want to. Sure. We're just, as a matter of courtesy, dropping by here since you're, the director of the airport. But you know why they didn't do that? I'll tell you why. They weren't in dead. That's why. That's my opinion. You're entitled to it. No. Listen to me. Republican U.S. Representative Darrell Issa, California. And you can't be too conservative a Republican U.S. representative to get elected to Congress out of California. When they had the ATF director under oath a couple of months later, he said right to his face, well, it looked like a planned hit to me. Issa's not the kind of guy to say that kind of stuff. So I guess it really did look like a planned hit, didn't it? It looked like a planned hit to him, looked like a planned hit to you, looked like a planned hit to me. And it's outrageous that how many months are we into the Trump presidency? Yeah, 15 months in, and DOJ is still standing tall defending ATF over this. It's outrageous. But I digress. Back to Dale Ellis at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He said the letter said that civil litigation has proven inadequate in the face of government citations of sovereign immunity and qualified immunity for the individual agents involved in the raid. A final tort claim filed by Brian Malinowski's widow, Marie Del Socorro Malinowski, otherwise known as Mayor Malinowski, was the subject of a hearing December 5th before U.S. District Judge Lee Radofsky to argue a motion filed by the federal government to dismiss the case. Judge Radofsky has yet to rule on the matter. Really? Almost 5 months later, he hasn't ruled. I don't know if that's unusual or not to take that long. The letter makes 4 requests of the Department of Justice. First, it requests that they would initiate an independent investigation into the ATF's motivation, planning, authorization, execution of the March 19th, 2024 search warrant. Yeah, because they won't talk to Congress and they won't talk to the Arkansas State Legislature. So since ATF is answerable to DOJ, maybe they'll talk to them. So that's first request. Second request, assess compliance with DOJ policies, constitutional standards, and accepted law enforcement practices. Yeah, none of which was complied with. Third request, evaluate whether systematic failures in training, supervision, or oversight contributed to this incident. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if there were systemic failures in training, supervision, or oversight. I mean, if you want the guy dead, you'll find a way to do it, right? Fourth request, publicly report findings sufficient to restore confidence in federal law enforcement accountability within the state of Arkansas. Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. But who knows if it's going to happen. So, again, 27 Republicans and 3 Democrats in the state Senate signed the letter to President Trump. If I recall correctly, young Steve, correct me if I get it wrong, I think there are 30 Republicans and 5 Democrats in the Senate. I think that's the split. So 27 of the 30 Republicans and 3 of the 5 Democrats signed the letter. I wonder who didn't sign the letter. Interesting. The April 22nd letter, according to Senator Johnson, was FedExed to the White House and also forwarded to Arkansas U.S. Senators John Boesen and Tom Cotton and U.S. Representatives Rick Crawford, French Hill, Steve Womack, and Bruce Westerman. Following the news conference, Bud Cummins, former U.S. attorney who is one of the lawyers representing Ms. Malinowski in a federal tort claim, said the lack of a definition of being in the business of selling firearms is troubling. He said, I don't see how you could constitutionally prosecute somebody under that regulation. Nobody really knows what you can and can't do. There's not an objective test in it. Cummins also pointed out there was never an accusation that Malinowski bought guns illegally. According to the search warrant affidavit, Malinowski's gun purchases were tracked through ATF Form 4473, a mandatory multi-page document used in the U.S. to record firearms transfers from a federal firearms licensee to a non-licensee. He said, it's selling that's a question here. There's nothing in the affidavit to tell you those weren't legal sales. If they were legal, it doesn't really matter what happened to those guns after he sold them. That's the law. It's a compromise between the gun control people and the Second Amendment rights people. It's not a perfect compromise. It's blurry. Obviously, it'd be easier to enforce it if the law actually said you can sell 12 guns a year, but not 13. But it doesn't say that. We don't know. Nobody knows. Senator Mark Johnson said of the thinking behind the letter to Trump, I wish I could say we think X, we think Y, we think Z. There's so much speculation and conjecture. But when somebody dies, you don't operate on conjecture. You try to get to the truth. God bless him. I hope it works. More coming up straight ahead as the Doc Washer Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. Fascinating. I'm just trying to connect the dots here. There are 29, I thought it was 30. There are 29 Republicans in the Arkansas State Senate, and there are 6 Democrats. And so all but 2 of the Republicans signed the letter politely requesting that President Trump please get to the bottom of the ATF shooting of Brian Malinowski, that he would ask the DOJ to please look into this. 3 of the 6 Democrats signed it. So 3 of your local Democrats didn't sign it. No, I'll give credit where it's due, and I'm still trying to figure out who the Republicans are, the 2 that didn't sign it. But the Democrats that did sign it, Greg Leding, Fayetteville, Jamie Scott, North Little Rock, and Clark Tucker of Little Rock. So those are the 3 that did sign it. Stephanie Flowers, Pine Bluff, couldn't care less. She don't want to know. Fred Love, Little Rock, he couldn't care less. He don't want to know. And then what was the other guy's name? Murdoch? Yeah, Reginald Murdoch out of Mariana. He can't be bothered with it. But what I'm going to try to find out is what Republicans, who are the 2 Republicans that don't want to know. That's going to be interesting. Because again, Mark Johnson said it's not really a partisan issue. It's not even a bipartisan issue. It's a nonpartisan issue. People of Arkansas want to know how the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, how they decided to do a dynamic entry to treat the highest paid employee of the city of Little Rock, the director of Little Rock Airport, Brian Malinowski, to treat him like he was a kingpin of a drug cartel. And to break his door down with no warning and to shoot him dead in less than 60 seconds. Not announce yourself. And again, why they didn't just drop by his office if they didn't have an arrest warrant. It's just a search warrant. Yeah. So I'm pleased that 27 Republicans and 3 Democrats signed it. I mean, that's great. I'm not surprised that you got 3 Democrats who are like, yeah, we don't care. I am surprised that you've got 2 Republicans who apparently couldn't be bothered. Now, again, in case you didn't hear about it, a top advisor to Anthony Fauci has now been indicted by the Department of Justice. 78-year-old David Morans has been charged with conspiracy against the United States, destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations, concealment, removal, or mutilation of records, and aiding and abetting. Now that's right out of the New York Post, and we'll get you some details on that coming up after the top of the hour news. But we'll see where it goes. You know, I'm very concerned about where our country is. Sky News reporting breaking news: Secret Service agents shot during the attempted assassination of Donald Trump was likely struck by gunfire from another agent, according to Sky News. Yeah, I think we all figured that out pretty quickly. Notice the would-be assassin was not charged with shooting a federal law enforcement agent. And I think there's a reason why. Not that he didn't want to. All right, more coming up as the Doc Washer Show continues. Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer. One hundred 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues. Here you can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. New York Post has the article. Anthony Fauci advisor indicted by DOJ on charges of concealing COVID records. Oh my goodness. The Department of Justice indicted the former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci for allegedly destroying and concealing records for investigations into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. 78-year-old David Morans has been charged with 1 count of conspiracy against the U.S., 2 counts of destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations, and 2 counts of concealment, removal, or mutilation of records. How about that? The conspiracy also included an alleged kickback scheme. Hello, excuse me, wait, what? Run that by me again. The conspiracy also included an alleged kickback scheme where Morans took or was promised gifts, including wine bottles and meals at Michelin-starred restaurants to conduct official acts favorable to a federal grantee. Now, y'all don't even want to get me started on kickback schemes related to COVID. You want to go down the road? Do you want to go down that road? Because if you're a hospital and somebody dies and you tag COVID on that death certificate, then you make a lot of money. If you're a hospital, you just put somebody on a ventilator, you make a lot of money. You put them on remdesivir and kill them, you make a lot of money. 97% of people put on the ventilators didn't make it. Kickback schemes, huh? When we going to start indicting some other folks on kickback schemes? I'm just thinking out loud here because I know my life is in God's hands. I know I'm not suicidal. I can't pretend I don't know where I am, though. I'm in Arkansas, the natural state, where a number of people back in the 80s and 90s left this mortal coil under very suspicious circumstances. But Fahmy Malik is not he's not the state medical examiner anymore, so I don't know. Anyway, I digress sometimes. The ex-National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases official, NIAID, that is the agency that Fauci was in charge of, faces up to 51 years in federal prison if convicted of all charges. 78 faces up to 51 years. Yeah, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. The indictment unsealed Monday in Maryland federal court also notes two. The indictment. Put yourself together, Doc. The indictment unsealed Monday in Maryland federal court also notes 2 unnamed co-conspirators who, quote, concealed, removed, destroyed, and caused the concealment and removal of federal records to evade Freedom of Information Act and Federal Records Act. Buddy. So it's like that, huh? Man. Information in the indictment indicates co-conspirators are Dr. Peter Daszak. See, nobody's talking about that. Dr. Peter Daszak, the president of Manhattan-based nonprofit EcoHealth Alliance, and Dr. Gerald Koish, an associate director of Boston University's National Emerging Infectious Disease Laboratory Institute and National Institutes of Health grantee. Former House COVID Subcommittee Chairman Brad Winstrup told the New York Post Tuesday that additional indictments may follow. He said the repercussions of these actions have caused significant damage to the public health system, and recovery may take considerable time due to the involvement of numerous individuals with various agencies. The ongoing pursuit of justice is essential for the well-being of the American people. Well, isn't that the truth? Dr. Richard E. Bright, molecular biologist at Rutgers, added the evidence against the 3 is compelling. Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that the evidence against the three is compelling. 501-401-1011 to sound off and talk back. Mike from Hot Springs Village, you're on the Doc Washington Show. What's up, brother?
I'm calling. 501-401-1011 sound off and talk back. Mike.
You might want to put him on hold because it sounds like. Okay, well, we got to tell him to turn the radio down when they get on the phone. Oh, is he back now? Mike from Hot Springs Village. No, that's all right.
I apologize.
No.
What happened was when I was on hold, I couldn't hear the radio, so I had to go back to speaker on my car phone. Here, when I'm on hold, I got to hear the radio in my ear, right? So
that's the way it should work in a perfect world.
Difficulty.
Or as a great philosopher once said, well, that's what we like to tell ourselves, isn't it, Boomhauer? Yes, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, sir.
That's okay. Hey, Doc, good news. I mean, you and I have talked a couple of times about Fauci and the whole COVID mess and disaster that we all went through. And we can't forget it. And it's great that the justice is finally happening. But what I'm really excited about is seeing Comey get indicted.
Yeah,
Isn't
man.
that wonderful news?
Yeah.
I don't know if you talked about it earlier or not, but I was so happy to see Comey on the defensive again, and playing his Boy Scout routine when he's an obvious liar and a dirty cop.
Yeah.
And I just love to see this guy actually get convicted of a couple of felonies. 86-47. He had no idea what it meant, Doc. He's a sweet, innocent child, and he had no idea what 86-47 meant.
Yes, a veritable babe in the woods, yes.
A babe in the woods, and yet he rose by his goodness and virtue and clean living to be the FBI director, and never knew what 86-47 could have possibly meant.
Yeah, I think the guy is an actual teetotaler. So yeah, he must have risen up through the ranks by his clean living. Yes, sir.
It's so funny. So I'm really hoping that something happens and he does get convicted of this, because it's an obvious threat to kill the president, not him, but to get others to take action. And, they're all doing it. There's so many others other than Comey that are trying to trigger the mentally deficient, the insane population, the left.
Yeah.
To go out as lone wolves and try to kill the president or kill whoever, kill Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
By the way, what happened to the boyfriend of the assassin of Charlie Kirk? I'm sorry, girlfriend, boyfriend?
Well, yeah. Well, he, along with Tyler Robinson's parents, he is fully participating. He is has said that he will testify for the prosecution. For the prosecution, brother.
That's good.
Because, see, here's the thing. Southern Poverty Law Center put the Turning Point USA on their hate group list, and less than 4 months later, Tyler Robinson allegedly murders Charlie Kirk and texts to his little tranny boyfriend, "Some hate just can't be overcome." Because a hate group, the SPLC said so.
SPLC, yeah, they've been around for 50, 60 years now?
Yes, sir.
And they've always done it. They produced Jussie Smollett. They produced the Black Navy sailors that, when I was in the Navy, were painting swastikas all over the base that I was at. And it was like, safety stand down, get everybody in, we get to stop working for a day and talk about, racial intolerance and all this. And it was, all the white people were put on, they were told that you better watch your P's and Q's and, not show your racism because this is awful what's happening. And then they put up some cameras, NCIS.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was black sailors that were doing it. They were putting, and they were inspired by us.
Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah. There's not enough real white on black racism around anymore like there was 60 years ago, so they have to manufacture it.
Exactly. exactly. And, I'm starting to think that, the old 50s and 60s are getting a bad rap.
Well,
I'm starting to think. There were some bad things going on, but I
sure.
think I just think that the culture may have been superior in many ways in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s than it is today. Yet all you ever hear from, you don't want to go back to the 80s. You don't ever want to go back to those 80s when Reagan was president. Those are just horrible days.
Oh, good
Horrible, racist days. Yeah, so.
Mike, do you have?
We've been scammed for a long time, Doc. We've been scammed for a long time.
Do you have liberal friends or family members who are saying this to you? Because I don't hear that too much.
What's that?
You don't want to go back to 80s. The Reagan days were awful.
Oh, I hear that.
Oh, okay.
I've definitely heard that. Yeah, especially go back a little further. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, those were the most horrible days in American history. And, I don't know. There were some problems with communism. There was problems with a lot of, communist agitators. But I don't know other than that. The assassinations were terrible.
Yes.
But I don't think it was a inferior culture back then. I think people were probably better off and safer, and just in general, just a better culture to live in. And we've just been lied to about everything for so long.
Yes, we have.
After a while, it gets wearisome after a while, doesn't it?
Yes, we have, sir. I got to run to it, Mike. Yeah. It's always good to hear from you, brother. God bless you. Have a great day.
See you, brother.
Thank you so much. All right. Coming up, I don't know if you know or if you've heard about the new document dump. A lot of new stuff out there about the Clinton Foundation. And we'll give it to you coming up as the Doc Washburn Show continues. Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer. 101.1 The Answer. Doc Washer Show continues. Breaking news. New FBI Clinton document reinforces deep state's dual standard of justice. Professor Margot Cleveland reporting over the Federalist. Senator Chuck Grassley released the FBI Washington Field Office's 12-page electronic communication, or EC, that opened a preliminary investigation into the Clinton Foundation. Its extensive evidence of potential pay-to-play criminality among the Clinton family confirms a politicization and weaponization of the DOJ. Late last year, another trove of documents, also released by Grassley, summarized the origins of three separate FBI investigations into the Clinton Foundation, opened respectively out of the New York, Washington, D.C., and Little Rock field offices. They don't want to talk about it. As the Federalist reported at that time, those documents indicated that Ray Hulser, then head of DOJ's Public Integrity Section, did not support the investigation in the Clinton Foundation and withheld information from the U.S. Attorney's Office running the probe out of Little Rock. Nobody else is talking about this. Special Counsel John Durham would later question Hulser about the Clinton Foundation investigations, and the former Penn section chief told Durham's team, although he had declined prosecution on behalf of the Public Integrity Section, he told the office he made it clear, however, his decision was not binding on the various U.S. attorneys' offices or FBI field divisions. Hulser explained his reasoning to the special counsel by claiming, in sum, the FBI briefing was poorly presented. There was insufficient predication for at least one of the investigations due to its reliance on allegations contained in a book. According to another section chief, DOJ's reaction to the Clinton Foundation briefing was hostile. Hulser's refusal to open an investigation out of PIN and his excuse that the FBI presented the case poorly just can't be reconciled with a detailed summary contained in the EC that's now public. As Grassley highlighted in a letter sent yesterday to Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel, including the FBI's EC, are numerous allegations of foreign influence concerns that arose from speaking fees and donations to the Clinton Foundation. Iowa Senator Grassley then pulls a few examples from the Washington field office's opening communication, beginning with donations to the Clinton Foundation totaling $2.35 million for then head of the Russian government's uranium company, Uranium One. The EC is not limited to evidence about Uranium One. It also details evidence of donations to the Clinton Foundation from an executive of Polo Resources. 8 weeks later, the U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh persuaded the prime minister to reauthorize pit mining, including one in which Polo Resources had an interest. Another section of the EC highlights evidence suggesting a pay-to-play scheme involving Colombian Timber and another Clinton Foundation donor. The FBI EC also notes Hillary traveled to Russia, where she allegedly prompted Russian officials to enter into a $3.7 billion aircraft purchase with Boeing. Then 2 months later, Boeing pledged $900,000 to the Clinton Foundation. The EC further discussed the Haitian government awarding Hillary's brother a rare gold exception permit, the first issued in 50 years during the same time period in which billions of U.S. tax dollars had been spent in Haiti following the earthquake in 2010. What, if anything, the FBI did investigate these additional potential pay-to-play schemes before DOJ closed the investigation in 2016 is unclear. What we do know, though, is after Donald Trump's election in 2016, Little Rock was able to reopen his investigation, but Hulser and DOJ continued to interfere in the investigation into the Clinton Foundation. The documents released now show just how extensive that interference was. The lead assistant U.S. attorney noted March 6, 2020, investigative update memorandum that he still had 3 initial requests to investigate activities outstanding some 2 years after seeking the information. And these delays followed after the Penn chief refused to support the investigations into the Clinton Foundation and, along with other DOJ players, sought to thwart them. Man, I wish I had time to fit it all in, but I will add it on my Facebook pages. This is the Federalist, Professor Margot Cleveland, the article entitled Breaking New FBI Clinton Doc Reinforces Deep State's Dual Standard of Justice. As the great philosopher Bob Dylan once said, has it ever been otherwise? The great Dave Ellswick will be on tomorrow morning, God willing, at 7:06, and God willing, I'll see you tomorrow at 4:06 on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer.